Tuesday, March 26th at 6 p.m. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Councilmember Lucido.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Here.
Councilmember Owens.
Here.
Mayor Pixley.
Here. I need a motion, please, to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Move and support. Any changes? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. Our first item tonight for the public is a hearing in the public, and this just relates to two items. One is the fleet replacement program, and the second one is Article 6 of the moderate income family housing tax exemption. And this would be related to the Aaron Park residences. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on either of those? We only have 3 people in the audience. All right. That hearing of the public is closed. Let's move on to our unfinished business, and those are 2 items that were, the first one was tabled from a previous March meeting, and it's related to the approval of the fleet replacement program. So, Mr. Sabota, are you going to take it, or are we going to refer to?
Well, we'll do a tag team show. How's that sound, Madam Mayor? Council had requested at the last meeting a breakdown of costs related to every individual police car. Our Deputy Finance Director went back as far back as July 1st, 2017 through whatever present day was at the time he was doing this, and has prepared a spreadsheet that summarized the costs as avoidable and unavoidable. Unavoidable would be considered regular maintenance costs. For 17-18, those totaled $12,368.20. The avoidable maintenance costs, in other words, they were maintenance required as a result of the age condition of the vehicle. Those totaled $59,828.66. That was through the 17-18 fiscal year. You will note that on at least 2 vehicles, we spent in excess of $9,300 in unavoidable costs. For the current fiscal year, we have spent $12,713 in unavoidable costs, and then avoidable, and $7,500 of that was for a changeover in vehicles. And then avoidable to date was $45,245, and the highest we have spent is $8,800 on one vehicle, which we spent $11,000 on the previous year. So that is the breakdown on police car costs. And then also there was a question as to the amount of fuel that is purchased. So we have another spreadsheet that our Deputy Finance Director prepared indicating gasoline, diesel, and diesel for the fire department. This was the best that he was able to do up until the time that the information was needed to be provided to City Council. So that is in more of a date format than in a summary format. Bit of information for Council. Last week we had a situation where the gas pump at the DPW broke, and if you will recall, we had indicated at a previous meeting that we have some contamination issues over there, so that we would need to do a removal of that underground tank and apparently do some work with the gas pump. After a few days, I believe they were able to get the gas pump working again. However, we don't know for how long, so we asked for an estimate as to how much it would cost to replace the gas pump and also the underground storage tank and bring everything up to environmental compliance. And in the packet that I gave you today, this is actually the last page, and if you just flip it over to the very back, and you'll see that the quote came in for $364,823 with another $30,000 as a contingency for contaminated soils for a slide rail system. So that's $400,000 essentially that the city would never be able to recover if we were to replace our existing gas system. This morning, I received an email from Councilmember Lucido who asked that I prepare for all of the vehicles that we are considering replacing at any point in time, assuming they were all done at this point in time, what those costs would be on an annual cost with maintenance, an annual cost without maintenance, and if we bought everything outright. and you have 4 spreadsheets on legal-sized paper in front of you. The first one is the cost for police. We could, in the patrol vehicles are not subject to the maintenance. That annual cost would be $156,231 if we lease. However, if we bought them up front, that's $586,759. For the 3 fire vehicles, the annual rental with maintenance is $21,327, and the purchase price would be $96,220. For the DPW, and this is really rough because we have not had the opportunity to do a proper assessment if all these vehicles are needed, but let's just make the assumption for argument's sake that we are going to do a per vehicle replacement. The total annual rental cost would be $94,050, and purchase price would be $426,288. And on the final sheet is the building department, city hall, courts. That's scheduled for a few years out. That maintenance rental rate would be $49,909, and the outright purchase price would be $233,617. Another request was made to get more detailed breakdown of the vehicle build expenses, and that's the first 8.5 by 11 sheet. If you look on the back, you will see that total average is estimated to be around $11,600. Once again, it depends on the type of vehicle that's being upgraded and what type of work is needed. And the vendor that is identified is the vendor that performs most of the work for most of the vehicles in Tri-County, Detroit. So that was the information that was requested by council members after the last meeting up until and through this morning. I do not know if any council members had requested any information from Mr. Conway over here, but if he has some other information to share with council, I think it would be a good time to do that now.
Yeah, I think as time goes on and year after year passes, our largest growing business segment is obviously the government space. It's the government space because you guys work on a pretty strict budget, right? And everyone's pretty much in the same boat. Manufacturers are raising prices, and even though you guys get the best buy of anyone, it doesn't stop you from the prices raising. 5-6 years ago, a police cruiser would cost you probably right around $20,000 and about $10,000 an upfit. In 2020, model year for a Ford Police Interceptor on the My Deal program is north of $33,000. That's a $4,000 price increase over last year's model. Your guys' budget isn't growing at 10 or 15 or 20% like the vehicle prices are growing. So that puts everyone, not only the city of Eastpointe, but I'm meeting with the city of Wixom, the city of Howell, all over the state, that puts everyone in the same position. Either we replace less vehicles with the same budget, or we find a new way to fund them, and we kind of look through a new lens. And that's exactly what our program does, is it looks through a different lens. How can we replace the amount of vehicles we need to replace without paying for it all right up front, because the prices are getting higher and higher and higher. So that's what we provided to you. I think, Mr. Sabota's analysis is extremely in-depth for whatever you guys are looking into, but I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you would have or any reservations that you might have on the program.
Council, any questions? Mr. Cedar, you had all your answers?
Yes, I believe so.
How did we, Mr. Sabota, identify Phoenix to get as the person we got a quote from on the tank, the gas?
That was handed over to the DPW supervisor to try and find a quote. I'm not sure if that is the current vendor or not, but I wanted to at least have something in advance, not knowing what that number would be. I did do I guess you can call an internal poll amongst Mr. Blum and Mr. Altimus, and was pick a number, what do you think it was? And all three of us were significantly below what the actual number, I think, came in at. So this was quite a shock to all of us.
Well, that's why I was concerned. If we just, and I noticed it's dated for today as well. I don't know if they came out and took a look at it, but I'd probably want to see more information or at least comparables, because that's something we would go out to bid on.
Oh, most
considering the
definitely.
price.
But at least for purposes of consideration, we know that there's going to be a cost. Let's assume that this is best-case scenario, that's $400,000. And if it's worst-case scenario, well, that's $400,000, but we don't know how much better we can get. It's still money that we really wouldn't get any return on in terms of investment.
I have a question. When was the last time, do you know when the last time this was replaced?
Gentlemen, help.
A long time ago, because none of us know. No, the tank that's in the ground, we have had insurance on that, the environmental insurance since 1994. I know it goes back that far, so it would have been in the ground prior to that.
Now, this quote talks about excavation, and I think testing is listed here too. Would insurance cover that kind of thing, because it's related to environmental concerns?
They would only cover it if there was a leak of the tank that contaminated the soil. They would cover the excavation of the soil and disposal of it. Right now, we know it's like there's two different shells around this tank. The outer one does have a leak, so there's water leaking in between the outer one and the inner one. Right now, we're not aware of any leakage of the tank itself, but we're going to have to replace it at some point. It has to be removed from the ground either way because of the failure that we know is building on it.
So even if we shifted the gas to the contractor, we would still have to remove
We'd
the
still
tank?
have to
and
remove
treat
it. We just wouldn't have to put in a new system or put in a new tank.
If the hole's in the outside, why can't we just fix the outside shell?
You still
I
have
guess
to,
we'd have to get a quote on that and see. We'd still need an above-ground system. The one that's over there, I don't know if you've seen it, it looks like it's from the 50s. It's constantly breaking down. So, I don't know if you can repair a tank of that age. I have no idea.
If you have ever gotten gas in the UP, looks like you're getting gas from
Yep.
the 50s also. They still have them.
I know. We don't want ourselves to become a brownfield.
but if you remove it at all, you still have to do all the soil analysis that's below.
Correct.
And the reason I'm asking about that is because I'd like to look at what the cost of replacement is, and also look at if above ground, I don't know if it's possible to try to,
Our diesel's above ground.
so we might be able to spend a lot less money if we don't replace the system underneath the ground like it is now. But Mr. Spoda, I know you said there's not a return on investment for that, but I'd like to do some research on what gas prices were, because the return on investment is paying less money for gas. And I think I still would need to know more, because we do have a breakdown of the fuel and how much it costs when we got it. But I would need to know how that related to the market at the time to know exactly how much we were saving.
Right, and remember, whether we buy gas at the pump or we buy gas, call it wholesale, we are not subject to any of the taxes in either location. So if you see a price at the pump, we're not paying that.
Well, I know that, but I still think we pay a lot less by ordering it in bulk.
If I could just touch on this, ordering bulk, absolutely. I have a lot of customers, both commercial and government, that have the bulk fuel system. What you'll see is you get, whenever you buy it, that's the price that you're locked in for however long you have it. Let's say a fuel tank lasts you 5 months. Well, if gas when you bought it was $2 a gallon for you guys, well, you have $2 a gallon for that long. But if gas at the pump drops to $1.80 a gallon for you, that's your opportunity cost that you lost. At the same time, that's gained if gas at the pump is $2.20 and you bought it at $2, right? So it's very hard to do the calculation. On our end, there is no cost for the fuel program for you. Enterprise fronts the cost with Right Express, just because we like the information that we get, because you guys punch your mileage in at our pumps around the city. At the end of the day, we're not tied. You don't have to do all of it. You don't have to do the fuel program to do the leasing program, but it is a nice additive because it doesn't cost the city anything, and it could potentially save a $400,000 investment.
And if I remember, I think if we fill up at a certain brand, we get an additional cash back, if you will.
Correct. Yeah, you'll get a 5 cents off per gallon at ExxonMobil stations.
So initially, you only plan to utilize this for a limited number of cars, correct?
Correct. The first round is, for general purposes, let's just call it half the police fleet. So whatever that number is that you're looking at, actually, I think we weren't doing half. If I remember, the number was around $98,000 for the original proposal, because we're getting some of the more expensive cars this round. And then the second round, which will also occur next fiscal year, delivery, that's when we would finish off this police fleet, with the exception of, I think, 2 vehicles maybe. They're sort of a few years out.
So the gas contract, if you use the gas contract, it would only be applicable to this number of fleet.
Actually, the gas cards could go with any of the city vehicles.
That's correct, yeah. So from day one, it's based on what you guys need and what you guys would like. We could implement a gas program day one for all of your fleet vehicles, leased and non-leased, customer-owned, so.
I'm just trying to think whether we need to remove that tank. We're gonna have to fix the tank anyway, no matter what, but whether or not, and it sounds like you're gonna have to fix it pretty soon.
Right, and a decision like that, I'm not expecting council to make today, but I guess you can say throughout the worst-case scenario, if that number is the worst-case scenario. Fortunately, they were able to get the pump working again. For how long, I don't know, but I believe Mr. Altimus is probably going to be busy preparing a couple of RFPs, one with an alternative as well, to see what our various options are and where they come in, because we don't want to be caught in a situation, again, where we have to have our vehicles go to a gas station and then, I guess you can say, find ways of trying to pay for it.
Yeah, that's a cool additive. I mean, since there is no cost for the city from like a vehicle per month, it's just the cost of fuel less the taxes we back out for you. Even if you guys do decide, hey, we want to replace our on-site tank, well, while that's being replaced, what are you going to do for a fueling option for all of your vehicles? You might as well have us plug in and use our fueling program so you guys can run it out, and there's no cost but the cost of fuel. So while we can implement a program to help you actually satisfy the need while you guys are replacing it. So that's an additional consideration. Even if it's not a permanent solution, at least we're able to help out when you guys need us.
And you said there's no opposition to sort of like blending, like if having vehicles that use that card sometimes, but then also could fill up?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, even if you have both options, we'll just get the information whenever you guys use it at the pump. We'll be able to obtain the information from it, and we'll help fleet plan with that information.
Seems to me it could possibly be a good idea to have the pump, and then say we buy it $2 a gallon. As long as the price is over that, we say to our employees, fill up at the pump. If it drops below, say, okay, use the fuel program for now, you know.
You could always do that, yep.
Obviously, there will be some additional financial analysis once we have some better numbers to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
Regarding the cost of repairs to vehicles, I know some of them are listed as avoidable. Were any of these repairs the result of like a car accident or something like that?
There is, they're listed as insurance in the unavoidable column, down towards the bottom of the page. Anything that was listed as avoidable was just the expensive wear and tear, you know, you lost some struts because the thing's 5 years old, and the police, honestly, you guys beat the crap out of your equipment. And that's one of the advantages of the new equipment, is just keeping the repair costs down.
So, am I reading this correctly? The fiscal year 17-18, the number 39, spent $11,000 on a 2012 vehicle.
And then another $9,000 this year. So we put $20,000 into their car to keep it on the road.
Can we get an idea
that
on
mean?
what it was, what the repairs were for 20,000 in 2 years?
I believe we
I'm
have that
assuming
information.
that's a Dodge Charger.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a very common thing that we see when we come in and we do a fleet analysis for you. When you start tracking your guys' maintenance, police are trending to move away from Dodge Chargers because the maintenance costs continuously pile up after the third and fourth year. And that's not your guys' only cost, but again, me coming in as a fleet consultant, letting you know, after your third and fourth year, your resale value is dwindling to nothing, right? If I can get rid of it after your third or fourth year, we're able to capture $10,000 to $12,000 in equity while dodging your $20,000 in repairs, right? And that's all a part of the analysis that you guys will be given year after year after year, because we come back and we sit down with you every quarter to help you guys budget, fleet plan, and replace the proper vehicles to replace.
And no one thought, hey, why we should get a new car. We then went to the next year and spent another
9,000.
9,000 on the same car.
Well, we
Who
did,
is-
we did acquire, council did authorize the purchase of 2 new police vehicles. However, remember, we have a, what is it, a 6-month, 7-month waiting period before we place an order, before we actually receive the vehicle. So even if we did not repair the vehicle and we bought a new one to replace it, that car would be out of service for up to 6 or 7 months before we'd have a new one on the road. And that's really a decision of the police department to determine whether or not they can operate a patrol division successfully by having X number of vehicles permanently out of service for an extended period of time.
So I guess my question is, I mean, even $11,000 in services, I would think would take a significant amount of time to get everything repaired. If we're paying that much, there must have been a lot of damage.
That sounds like it sounds like a transmission. Transmissions cost about $10,000 to $12,000, and I'm sure it's a Hemi. It's probably all-wheel drive, so it's pretty intricate. And usually the downtime in a typical shop is around 2 to 3 weeks for that. To answer that question, but that's just industry average. That's not on that specific repair. That's just me hearing it.
And that doesn't say that it was all at one time, and I think it's a total per that car.
For the fiscal year, correct.
Who do we use for repairs, or how do we make that determination?
We typically use a local business in town here. Depending on the repair, if it's under warranty, it would go to the dealer. But we typically use the same vendor in town. And I don't know what car, does it list what car that was?
R39.
39?
Is that one that we retired?
That was a Dodge Charger.
Charger.
It had almost, well, it has 95,000 miles on it. Our issues with the Chargers, we have 5 Chargers
Still on the road.
that are in excess. Some of them, one's got 101,000, a couple of them are approaching 100. In most of those Chargers, the problems are the front ends. The front ends go, and then we get engine knocks and the lifters, and that costs a lot of money. And the tires wear on those cars like cotton candy. It just they just melt. And we're trying to get away from the Chargers. We're going to stick with typically we want to go with the new car now to replace the Crown Vic is the Explorer. That's the biggest bang for the dollar. But the Chargers are costing a fortune, and that's our number one goal is to rid those from the fleet as soon as we can.
Car 39 is still in service. It was not one of those replaced, so I'm assuming the other 2 that were replaced were in much worse condition, especially in terms of mileage, I think.
Yes, 3.5 was removed. When I was hired here, they want to invest $4,000 into a 2010 car. I just said, just take it out of service. We'll strip it, and that's what we did. We just stripped it. It's not worth the investment. Right now we have 3 cars that are down. We're going to get to a point where we may have to double up the police cars with 2 officers per car. And I don't know if you've ever sat in a police car in the passenger seat. That computer's right there, and it's very difficult. It's a safety issue. And these cars run, most of them run 24/7. You have 3 or 4 people driving them a day. And, your average car, if it has 90 or 100,000 miles on it, to us, in our normal car, that would be like 175 to 185,000 miles because they sit idle all the time. They, drive at low speeds most of the time.
What is the Ford ambulance from '94? I thought we got rid of all the ambulances.
That is for sale.
That's for sale, and it has a major, Roseville Police, they were interested, but it has a major oil leak. So we'll probably just scrap that if we can. We're going to try to auction it off. If not, we'll have to scrap it. It's going to cost, you have to remove the motor to get to the oil leak.
Was this the one that had been converted to the SWAT vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So they took basically the ambulance
Yes.
chassis and turned it into SWAT.
Okay.
We can also help make that go away.
You probably have a bigger market than we do for car sales.
I'm not saying I'm going to get
Heck,
a
I
$1 billion
might buy it.
for it, but I can make it go away for you.
Sell tickets for an M1 Abram.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You'll stop paying insurance on that at least.
So patrol vehicle, so is which ones are patrol on this list?
The numbers 31 through 39 are patrol, and 310 and 323 are patrol.
Yes, 3.5 and 3.11 are being built right now. 3.11 will be the new K-9 vehicle.
And so how did patrol work again with you?
Yeah, so the way that we structure you guys' patrol units is we lease them down to a $1 value. So we basically finance it down for you. And after 48 months, we come to the decision if we're going to keep it in service or if we're going to resell it for you. We use the information that you guys are using today, but it's a lot more accessible with our programs. And we help you guys fleet plan. We'll tell you what it's worth in the marketplace, what we'll be able to sell it for, what you spent on maintenance, what you're going to expect on maintenance in the next 12 months, and then what you will sell it for after another 12 months of use. So we call it a cost going forward analysis. What is it going to cost you to keep it, and what is it going to cost you to replace? And whatever's the best decision for the city, we'll use that information to help you guys fleet plan.
So what do we pay for over those 4 or 5 years, and what do you pay for? Because the patrol vehicles, we pay maintenance. How did the?
Sure, yeah, so you pay for, we go out and we buy it from the manufacturer, and then we lease it to you at your guys' buy rate. So we basically finance it to you guys, and then we monitor your guys' maintenance that you spend at the local shop. And we give you guys reporting. So basically you guys end up paying for the entire asset the entire time, but we help you with cash flow because you pay a small monthly payment as opposed to paying me or paying the vendor or whoever you're getting from the vehicles from today, $40,000 or $45,000 after upfit, whatever it is.
So Joseph, is this spreadsheet supposed to say we wouldn't be spending this 94? I was assuming the avoidable was, we're not spending that 9,400, but it's also.
Correct.
How does the lease?
What we would probably be spending, the reason we have the unavoidable is because of the age and condition of the fleet. We anticipate spending the avoidable for the patrol units. For the non-patrol units, which would be the undercover and detective bureau, the maintenance would be included with the lease agreement, and based on the numbers I'm seeing here, it appears as though that number is going to be lower than what we're already paying for unavoidable maintenance.
That's correct. So the idea behind it is for your patrol units, we're going to try to get rid of them under warranty. Right now, Ford has a 100,000-mile warranty on the Ford Explorer. It's called a Police Interceptor now in 2020. They renamed it, but it's a 100,000-mile warranty. Or 5 years. So the idea is to keep everything under warranty so your major repairs are all going to be taken care of, and the unavoidable repairs will be getting rid of the vehicle before they ever come up. On your non-patrol units and on all of your other department vehicles, we'll build the maintenance, all of the maintenance that you guys will be doing right into the lease charge for an additional $20 to $35 a month, depending the vehicle. And you guys will see no more unavoidable charges because that is an all-inclusive rate. This is a model that works for all of our government entities that we partner with. Frazier does, Ferndale has it work really well for them. City of Detroit, they've done a total of 350 units over the last 10 years, all on the same model, same pricing plan, same maintenance programs.
You said we will be able to avoid even the unavoidable costs because of.
That's the idea, correct. So your guys' unavoidable costs right now are coming because your vehicles are out of warranty. So your Dodge Charger, when you guys got it, your warranty on that is 60,000 miles. Well, on Patrol Unit 39, I'm not looking at the same paper as you, but just through conversation, the last 2 years that has been out of warranty. So if any of those repairs were under warranty, they could have been avoided. But because you've kept it for longer than you could have kept it for or should have kept it for, you've then had to pay instead of replace.
How'd we spend, Joseph, then, like, number 32, we spent $6,700 on that was fiscal year 17-18, so a 3-year-old car?
That car
Yeah.
has 78,000 miles on it already. So that's out of warranty.
But in 17-18, it wouldn't have, that would have been, now it has 78,000 miles.
So things also happen where shops can repair your vehicles that could have been covered under warranty, but you don't have someone designated to monitoring and policing the repairs, right? So if something is out of warranty, or if you guys don't know what the warranty are, if you haven't hired an ASC certified tech to police every single repair on every single vehicle, there's times that shops do repairs under warranty because they'll get paid for it instead of sending it down the road to a dealership, right? So that could be a possibility. That is, again, avoided under our program 100% of the time.
Essentially, we would have a third set of eyes looking over our maintenance requests to ensure that in the maintenance plan that the company there is being billed properly, and in our case, ensuring that we're not going off in our own direction and potentially bypassing a situation where we would benefit. So that's the benefit of having it under a maintenance agreement where someone else is looking over to ensure that money is not going to be wasted, because it's really their money, not ours, because we're in an agreement.
Right.
So I'm wanting to understand, if we chose to go into this program, and once we got essentially our entire vehicle fleet up across all departments up to where we want it to be, how much our yearly cost would be in terms of lease.
Well, what you would do is you'd take the, let's call it the second column, or second row, on your big spreadsheet, the total annual cost, including maintenance, non-pursuit. You take that from each one of those areas, so you got 156 and 21. Let's call that 180. And you got another 94, we'll call that 100, so that's 280. And then 49, that we'll call that 50, that is 330. So you're looking at about $330,000 a year in cash outflows to cover 20, 35, 45, 50 vehicles.
There's 59 total vehicles, correct, right? So if you guys decide you do not want to use any of your equity in your fleet or in your current leases to reduce your spend, that would be your spend. I think the $330,000. In all reality, the way that it works, and because we don't do all of it in year one, you guys are using the resale value in your current fleet and in our lease vehicles to reduce your future spend, right? So what you're not doing today is you're not using the resale of your fleet to help lower the cost of your future vehicle, right? What we're going to do is recycle your fleet more frequently so you have a ton of equity, because you guys are going out and now we're selling pickup trucks with 50,000 miles that are 5 years old or 40,000 miles. These vehicles are pulling $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 in the marketplace, and we're reselling them and giving the equity back to the city. So now you can replace that on a new pickup truck, and instead of having to pay $28,000 for a pickup truck, you take the $18,000 equity gain from the old truck, and now that's a $10,000 vehicle that you're leasing, right? So your lease payment is now cut into a third, right? Because we're using the equity on your behalf. So if you were to jump in all in day one, yeah, your price would be $330,000 less whatever we sold your current fleet at, right? But you're not jumping all in day one. You're doing a 5-year process to get it all under one roof, and we're using the resale values to help reduce your spend and ultimately eliminate your operational spend when it comes to maintenance on non-patrol units.
And if you're worried about what pocket the money's coming out of, if we are able to reinstitute a special investigative unit and we have seizures, we could potentially and most likely be able to use the drug forfeiture fund to pay for the police vehicles. Fire vehicles will be funded out of the general fund. We have no other options for that. Actually, it's only $20-some thousand a year, so compared to the entire budget, it's not much. The DPW vehicles will be split between the water fund and the motor pool fund. Remember, the motor pool fund is funded from revenue derived from the Act 51 rental rates, most likely from the major and local street funds, so no general fund money going out for that. The building department, that will be a general fund expenditure right now, averaging $50,000 a year. You can offset a portion of that through permit fees for the rental program and for the inspection program for building inspection. So there is some offset in terms of user fees there. Otherwise, that is truly a general fund hit. So for general fund, best case scenario, I think, would be about $70,000 a year. Worst case scenario, if we can't get the special investigative unit going in the police department, you're looking at another $150-some thousand a year. And that's paying for 35 cars, essentially, rather than buying them outright. And remember, if you buy something outright, you lose opportunity on investment of the surplus funds. Mr. Blum has a proposal before council today where we believe we'll be able to draw at least 2.5% interest on idle funds, something we're not even close to right now. You take that based on the, call it a $425,000, I forget what number I was looking at, and that's about $10,000, $12,000 a year. So in the long run, the money you're losing on lost interest, the money that you would be losing on staff time, the money that you would be losing on not having the best market to resell vehicles, it would be essentially a loss for the city to continue to proceed in the manner that we are presently managing our fleet.
So on what Mr. Kleinfeld was saying, so we've got this 330 number. What would the city, over the long term, obviously we're buying more vehicles some years than others. If we flatten it out, what are we roughly spending per year right now?
Well, we're not spending anything right now. We bought 2 police cars for, what did it come under, $80,000, $90,000, I think. So we're not spending anything. We haven't done anything to the DPW fleet. We haven't.
The 90 plus, 60, 59, well, 72, right? So for this fiscal year, for the 17, 18. So,
Are you talking purchases or maintenance?
well, both, because I mean.
Right, I haven't even
leasing
looked at the
is
maintenance, right.
Everything.
Yes.
Right,
So we'll be saving some money on the maintenance as well. But right now, the money that we spend $90,000 to get 2 cars. Here we can spend $150,000 and get 20 cars.
I have one quick question, just off the spreadsheet here. For quantity, some of it says, sometimes they say 0 and sometimes they say 1. But there's a price rolled into both. So if it says 0, does that mean we're not getting those cars?
Correct. This was done through the input of department heads and enterprises recommendations. We determine which type of vehicle we would get to replace an existing vehicle in our fleet. And this is assuming a one-for-one replacement. And remember, we have not done a proper analysis on DPW since that is not a priority at this time. So that is a worst-case scenario now for DPW. My guess is that some of those vehicles will not be replaced and that number will be reduced. But for purposes of discussion as requested, we threw everything in there.
So each of these spreadsheets in front of you is a breakdown of per department. So we have all of the types of vehicles that you guys will be replacing throughout the entire city. And then each sheet is a new department. So we have compact SUV, for example. Well, the police aren't going to be getting any compact SUVs, so you'll see a 0 in that department. But then when you get to building department, you'll see compact SUV with probably a 5 next to it. Because in the next 5 years, the building department is going to be replacing 5 vehicles with small SUVs. But you'll see a 0 on that column for police units because the building department will not be getting any police units.
Or in this case, you won't even see the line because it wasn't a consideration up until we got to the building department.
So my concern, and I think Mr. DeMonico kind of understood where I was going with it, was getting into a program where we will eventually down the line not own any of the vehicles, so we will have to continue leasing, and it looks like it'll be over $300,000. We're in a bad position because we haven't kept up with our maintenance, but if we policed ourselves better with investing more, council designating more money to replace vehicles and get up to where we should be, which would take some time, we might be able to realize the savings without going through a third party.
Mr. Conway, could you address the concern about not owning the vehicles?
What I'm understanding is I think you're worried about not owning the asset itself, or not.
Well, not just that. Once we're in a situation where all of our vehicles are leased,
Yeah.
we're locked in. We can never walk away from a situation like that because we need it. So if we ever did have years that, I don't know, fiscally we ended up really tight and we wanted to say we're not going to buy another vehicle this year or something like that, you know, we don't really have that option. We have to continue these leases no matter what.
So one answer is you don't have to lease vehicles every single year in accordance to your guys' budget. The payments, reoccurring payments, if that's what you guys are worried on, we find very unique ways to being able to help you guys. If you don't want to lease anything, that is totally fine. We're still here to work for you. So because we know exactly what your budget is or what it needs to be, let's call it 4 years down the line, you know, we have 80% of your fleet under a lease program. Well, you guys have the opportunity to own all of these vehicles, right? So they're under lease payments, but these lease payments are all going towards the principal of the vehicle. Remember, it's just like financing your own car, right? We're just not financing the entire amount. So if you guys wanted to buy the vehicles out because you still need them, you guys have the opportunity to buy the vehicles out and cut ties with the program. If you don't want to lease anything new, well then your budget is going to be the same and you don't want to resell anything, that's fine. Your budget's going to be the same as it was last year because the payments are consistent, right? So this isn't, even after the first year, if you guys decide that this program isn't for you and the replacements, you think that you would like to do it on your own, that's fine. You guys will have options. You guys can buy the vehicles out and then completely leave us if you want. Or you can continue the leases, and when the leases are up, we can help you resell them, and then you can use those funds to buy your own vehicles. What we find is that's never the case, though. What we find is because the open-end lease is extremely flexible, and you guys buy at such a great price, we can resell vehicles within 12 or 24 months of you guys even gaining them. And if you guys still need those vehicles, well, you're only in it for the lease payments that you had so far. So you guys will essentially have saved the funds of, instead of going out and buying that the year before, you will still have the ability to go out and pay for the vehicle, and we'll give you guys title and cut free. It's kind of a risk-free program because it's very flexible. There's no early termination penalties, no wear and tear penalties, and no over mileage. So we understand that the budgeting process is volatile, but we work extremely well with it. And what you'll see is the amount of savings that you'll have in maintenance and fuel economy alone, with having 59 vehicles that are all aging and getting over 100,000 miles, are going to offset the amount of lease charge that you're going to have. And that's what we try to quantify with the numbers in front of you.
So it would be possible to try it perhaps for just a year in a limited number of vehicles and to see what the advantages are and the disadvantages at the end of a year. And by that time, we would know more about the tank and the gas needs and so forth.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we tried to do as much as possible. So what we try to do is identify, using your guys' budget without asking anything greater, what would a sample look like and what would be great. And we identified your biggest spends from an operational standpoint. I think that vehicle that we all discussed that is $20,000 in maintenance over the last 2 years is one that we'll be replacing in year one, right? We need to point out all of those vehicles, replace it with our leases, and implement all of our programs to go along with it. So we're not asking for an all-in. You guys have 59 vehicles. Let's go out and get them all right now.
So the initial proposal is for how many?
13.
13?
Yeah.
Over a year?
13 over, well, the lease terms are set up between 4 and 5 years.
So a total of 13 vehicles over 4 or 5 years?
Correct, yeah.
But we could review it at the end of a year.
Correct, yeah.
So at the end of 1 year, how many vehicles would we have?
If you guys sign on with 13, it would just be the 13. Correct.
All police vehicles?
No, to our fire.
Two or fire.
Two or fire.
Two or fire, correct, yeah.
So going back to what you were saying about, I think Mr. Kleinfeld was talking about and Mr. DeMonico was talking about owning the cars. It's just pretty much like a regular car you lease. If you want to buy it, you have the option. So if we do the lease and we end up wanting to say we don't want to do the leasing idea anymore, can we buy these cars? We can do that.
100%. Yeah. And if you guys don't have the budget to write a check for the reduced book value, we can finance out the remaining balance to you so you guys can budget with cash flow.
If I can put council at ease, I don't foresee any cash flow problems over the next 5 years unless we have some major disaster or lawsuit that we're not covered for. But our cash flow is healthy, especially in the funds that I have described here.
So council, would you like to make a motion?
Well, I'm not ready to move forward, because there's also the question of going out to bid. I know other companies are available to do this. They might not have all the exact same amenities that come with the maintenance program. But if we're going to move in this direction, I still.
Well, there is a note on our action summary sheet where Mr. Altimus reviewed the enterprise proposal and determined that there's no other competitive firm currently that provides the same service.
Well, I mean, at our last meeting, we were talking about a bunch of other communities that do it with different companies.
We're looking at the total service package. Administration believes the best use of taxpayer monies and the most cost-efficient would be to have an all-encompassing package where essentially they are our fleet manager and all we have to do is write the check. And we're in a position where if something goes wrong, they're the ones that are going to assume the liability, not the city, because we're locked in at a price.
That's correct. Yeah, and I also want to help answer that question for you. Of the 30 cities, counties, and colleges that we partner with, we've had to go out to RFP 2 separate times, and the one piggybacked off the other. I believe it was Muskegon County. We won both of them, which is good, but everyone else was able to use Sourcewell, which is the largest government buying cooperative in the United States. Enterprise Fleet Management is the preferred fleet management company of Sourcewell, the #1 award winner, as well as TIPS, which is the second largest government buying cooperative. We are the fleet management company for both because our services and our infrastructure are so unique. We can pass services along to the city that no one else in our space can. There are other companies that can lease. There are dealerships that can lease to you. But can they do it at the MyDeal price? Can they do it at the Sourcewell negotiated price that you guys have locked in? Your guys' pricing is going to be the same as all of our other cities and counties within Michigan because it's automatically guaranteed within the Sourcewell contract. So if you need something to help satisfy the due diligence, that's what we go out and we partner with these buying cooperatives so you guys don't have to go through a bid process.
Do you happen to recall how many bids those?
I believe Sourcewell had 5, and I think TIPS had 4. TIPS I'm not 100% sure on, but we use Sourcewell a lot more frequently, and I also submitted that to your guys' finance director for just for record as well. And it has a breakdown of the services and the award letter with the notes from Sourcewell itself.
Director Rohit, which company did you guys use? Is it the same one?
We used Enterprise,
Okay.
and it's got to be at least 10 years now, 8 to 10 years.
Yes.
It worked very well when I was in the city of Fraser. That's all I can say. We didn't have the capital to buy a new fleet. This was the best way to do it, and the officers always had newer cars, a lot safer, looked more professional, and we certainly reduced the cost of maintenance.
When you left there, did you guys still have this program?
Yes, they still have
They're
it
still a
now.
current customer, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
You want to table it to the next meeting?
I was going to say that we did just get a few different tables with numbers on them that I want some time to look over.
So would you like to make that motion?
How about at least 2, I mean, next meeting's next Tuesday.
I would like to wait till the following one if possible.
Yeah, me too.
And if anybody wants to look at the repair information, I have about a 5-inch stack of paper sitting over in my department. You can go through all the bills if you want and see what kind of repairs happen.
Sounds good.
Is there anything I can provide you guys in the meantime before we review again to help you guys with your due diligence and questions and worries? Obviously, you know, the issue gets tabled because there's obviously still, you're assuming risk, or you're seeing there's, you don't have enough information, but I've reached out several times and I want you guys to use me. I'm here for you. You guys are my number one priority. I live down the street. I'm a taxpayer, but when we're continuously tabling the issue and the issues aren't brought to me ahead of time, I want to give you guys all the information, because on my end, what I know is the manufacturer had cutoffs, right? And now we can't get as good of a deal on the Ford Police Interceptor or the Tahoe because they're not producing those until the 2020 year now. So now that means that you guys won't get vehicles until probably next February if we're going to order off 2020, or if we're getting out of dealer stock. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit more money because they're going to have things on them that you don't need. So I understand wanting to table it, making the best decision. I can definitely appreciate it as a taxpayer, but my one ask of you is hit me with every question that you got, run it through every lens that you have, reach out to every reference that you need to, call people that work with us, people that don't, do whatever you need to do to put the city in the best position possible, because I know this program works. I wouldn't be up here. I wouldn't work for the company I work for if it didn't work. I wouldn't be proposing it to the city that I live in if it didn't work. So please use me as an asset, and hopefully by the next council meeting, if we're going to table it, we have all of the information we need to make the best decision for the city.
No, and I appreciate you coming out and
Yeah.
being available for information. I think most of the information that was requested was more from the city manager or from the finance director, but
Yeah.
we do appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think my questions are more related to our finance side than, because you've been pretty thorough about answering questions on how the program works. Is our next, is it the 16th that we have the
Yes,
next meeting?
if that's 2 + 14 is 16.
All right, I will motion to table this matter until our regular meeting on April 16th.
Support.
Move in support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Councilmember Owens. Mayor Pixley.
Yes,
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. Let's go on to the second item, which is the introduction and first reading of the ordinance 1164 to amend Chapter 40, Article 6, moderate income family housing exemption for the Aaron Park residents. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Madam Mayor, I motion to introduce and give first reading to ordinance number 1164, which would establish a moderate income multiple family dwelling project and municipal service agreement for the property located at 15115 Deerfield, tax ID number 14-30-301-031, and to schedule the ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption at the City Council regular meeting on March 26, 2019.
Support.
But today is the 26th.
We're doing the second, our regular meeting.
That was direction that council gave us last meeting.
You're right, all right. And we have support?
Yes.
Yeah, I think someone, right?
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
I had the question, I think there was one section that seemed to be missing from before. I think I emailed you, Mr. Spoda, about that. I don't know if that was just
I know that there were revisions made from the last meeting that Mr. Albright worked on, and so if something was removed, I think Mr. Albright could answer that question.
yeah, I was just hoping too, because this isn't like track changed, so we have to like check word for word, and there's a whole missing section, so I was hoping we could get a summary.
Yeah, Mary, could you come on up? The proposal that the council has before it this evening is different from what was at the last meeting. Ms. Van Haren had presented me with those changes that I believe came from the petitioner themselves, and so then I took those changes and put them in ordinance form. So with regard to the specific section you're referring to, which one was it?
Yeah, there was like section 130 was attorney fees reimbursement. That one was missing. I was just hoping that usually we get track changes. We didn't, so I was asking for that, hopefully, so we could see the exact.
And I apologize, Councilman, if I missed that email.
Yeah, and I had track changes with me last time, hoping that we'd get those resolved, and I don't have them with me this time. I know that they were, CJ Felton is here, he might be able to help recreate what minor changes were made to it. I know that it was regarding the wording on Mishta.
Yes, there
Instead of-
was, Mishta was not defined in the definitions, and also there was a requirement that HUD and/or the county approve of any changes, which they are not a participant in this. It had to be approved by Mishta. That was the big change.
I do remember last time they talked about attorney fees not being allowable.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's, I just want to double check we're not,
And I remember the
Overlooking
thing about
anything.
Mishta, right.
Yeah, that was one of the
Okay.
main differences from
That was the thing.
the last one from 2017.
All right, so we have a motion on the table
And a support.
and a support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
yes.
Mayor and council reports. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Don't go away. Anybody want to make a report at this time, or do you want to wait till the next?
Next one.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion for adjournment from our special meeting, please.
So moved?
Support.
Move and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 6:55.